Yeah, you're all good. Take your time. You're all good.
Cool.
I'm officially recording. I just want to make sure I got everything right.
Just feel like a dork wearing the land. Anything with a lanyard, I'm not a fan of.
Hey, I don't blame you. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Continuing the broadcast live from San Francisco, Super Bowl Radio Row here on ESPN Wichita. I'm Pat Strathman. Joining me now is Yahoo Sports NFL and fantasy analyst and host of Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, Matt Harmon. You can hear Matt Harmon on that lovely fantasy forecast on the Yahoo Sports Network, Fast Channel, yahoosports.com, YouTube, and everywhere you get your podcast. Matt, glad to have you here. The big game is here. How are we feeling for this weekend?
I'm feeling great. I've been in San Francisco now since Saturday. Got here a day earlier than planned to try to beat the storms back east. And I feel like I've actually been here for almost 2 weeks now at this point. But it's been great. Really enjoying it. Love seeing everybody. Love doing stuff like this. So I'm excited, man. I'm happy to talk to you.
So what do we think about this Super Bowl? Seattle in New England, just like everyone predicted before the season started. Seattle and New England. No, not the case. But this is what we got for Super Bowl 60.
No, and I'm excited. Willem and I were just talking about this over here. You know, I think if you can look past the laundry of it and being like, oh, we're back to the Patriots again. It's something new. It's exciting.
Well, it's not the Chiefs.
It's not the Chiefs, which it is kind of funny that everybody's like, I don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl anymore. It's like, well, how about another helping of the Patriots again?
Yeah.
But it's a new, fresh Patriots team. It's a really interesting Seattle team. And I think, especially if you're a team of or you're a fan of a downtrodden franchise, this Super Bowl gives you hope, man. I mean, these two teams won in Seattle. It's an operation that had Pete Carroll for a long time and was kind of swimming in one direction. They completely changed currents, with same front office, but new quarterback, new head coach, new offensive play caller, wide receiver one in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was on the team but wasn't really maximized with the previous coaching staffs. He's really broken out. So that's sort of one of those teams that I would say Seattle was kind of stuck in purgatory, and then they managed to push their way out of it. And on the other side, I mean, New England, again, I know for casual fan, it's like, oh my God, the Patriots again. But this is a completely rebuilt operation. They were picking 4th in the draft last year, 3rd in the draft the year prior. Like, they were a sinking ship, and then 1 year later, they're in the Super Bowl. So they give you hope if you're that type of team.
Well, do they give you hope too if you don't have a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, the premier quarterback? You have Drake May and Sam Darnold, just two quarterbacks that I was telling someone this the other day. If Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, it's going to be the most unique quarterback to win because he doesn't seem like that type of guy, but he has found himself again. He went through hell in New York and went to Carolina, goes to Minnesota. Oh, hey, this is great. I can play football again. And Minnesota says, hey, we'll choose J.J. McCarthy. And, boy, was that a mistake as of right now. And now he goes to Seattle, and he just continues to grind away. I think resiliency is the best way to describe Super Bowl 60 because you have a guy like that who's headlining it, being able to get to this point. I think it's incredible. How has Sam Darnold been able to do it this year in Seattle?
Yeah, resiliency. I think they could put that up on the banner over there. That would look pretty good.
As long as I get some royalty fees off of it or,
Obviously, yes, of course. No, I think that what Sam Darnold has been able to do, it's a testament to like some resiliency 100%. I mean, that doesn't go unnoticed. It shouldn't go unnoticed. That a big part of this is his ability to just continue to push back and believe in himself. And it's tough for players, I was telling a story to some of my producers last night about very random player to bring up, but like Devontae Parker after his rookie year did not have a good rookie season with the Miami Dolphins, really struggled. There was a headline that came out from him that in the offseason, he's like, I had to rewatch my college tape just to remind myself I was good. And he never really caught on, but he did have like a 1,100 yards, 1,200 yard season at one point for the Dolphins. But it's just that anecdote is a reminder that it's tough on these guys. Like they go from being the best player at their high school, a great college player, and then you're still playing football, but you're not having that same level of success. That's tough from a mentality standpoint, especially a guy like Darnold, who was picked 3rd overall in the draft, and it's like, what is there something wrong with me, or is it an environmental situation? And that definitely is a big thing. Like, destination is destiny for these young quarterbacks. And, Kevin O'Connell himself was the one who said this last year, that a lot of these young quarterbacks, again, it's tough now in hindsight because they're struggling with a young quarterback, but it's like these young quarterbacks are mostly failed. They don't fail teams. Organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. And again, I think for a team like New York, they just weren't built for a guy like Darnold, but then he finds himself to, I think, the last 2 seasons, really good ecosystems with good play callers and good pass catching talent and just like a clear direction as a franchise. You're able to sort of get back on track. So it does give you hope for any of these quarterbacks that have not really worked out. I mean, shoot, Seattle was doing it with Geno Smith before Sam Darnold. Like, they've had 2 straight reclamation project quarterbacks, and it's worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's Drake May, who has to be the next Tom Brady. Can't imagine what it's like to live with that type of pressure, but he's handling it.
Yeah.
And to have Mike Vrabel by his side when he was hired, I thought, man, that's a one that you really got to watch, because the guy obviously knows how to win. He's won Super Bowls before, and I know it didn't go great in Tennessee, but it was just time for a change. Ends up in New England, and now I feel like Drake May's got like the X factor right next to him to really take him to the next level. How has Mike Vrabel gone about business in New England to get the Patriots back to this point at Super Bowl 60?
I mean, he's just so good at understanding the like micro edges from a head coaching perspective. Situational football, like how to not manipulate the rules, but like, okay, I can get away with this, or like, this is what this call really means, that sort of thing. So he's good there. He builds a good culture. He builds a belief. I mean, it's like hokey and sort of corny stuff, but the way that he greets like every player after the game, I mean, some of these head coaches are a little bit more aloof, like they're not one of the guys, and I think that really matters a lot. And it's a collection of players in this locker room that are very different. I mean, you've got players like Stephon Diggs, who used to be like elite players, and now are kind of, they're just solid starters. You've got some of those level of veterans. You also got really young players like a Drake May, like a Kayshon Boutte, who, former 6th round, 5th round pick, something like that, day 3 draft pick, that at one point I was like, is this guy even going to make the roster for the Patriots? And now he's like a real, not consistent volume-wise contributor, but he shows up in big moments. So you have different guys and you kind of get them all swimming in the same direction. Carlton Davis, another veteran that they signed this offseason that has been with multiple teams. So you're able to get everybody on track there. And then also can't really underrate the hire of Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. McDaniels, clearly at this point, not cut out to be a head coach. Probably will never get another head coaching opportunity again, which that's not something you could say for most coordinators. Like, if you're a coordinator like Josh McDaniels and you get an offense that was 4th in EPA per play this past year, and then you get him to the Super Bowl, like, you're moonwalking to a head coaching job. But because of how it's gone with McDaniels in 2 previous stops, and we can be honest, it's been a complete tire fire. He's never going to get that opportunity again. And that's a big clutch thing too, because he's not cut out to be a head coach. Great offensive coordinator. That really matters a lot for the development of Drake May.
All right, let's get away from Super Bowl for a moment. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Sure.
We got to talk about it.
Not something that we would have said the last few years. Let's get away from the Super Bowl. Let's talk about Kansas City Chiefs. Usually those are hand in hand.
This is very strange. I was talking to a Colorado radio station. They had me on for a moment, and they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, first off, what are you doing here? The Broncos are in here, so let's start with that. But
stay in your lane, pal.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, come on. The Chiefs, expecting them to get here, they didn't. Mm-hmm. And now you look at all of the issues and you wonder, how do you go about solving some of these issues? Cap space wise, of course, the cap number continues to rise. They're going to get a little bit of help when it comes to that, but they're still over the cap last time I checked, and they have some positions that they have to address. They don't have any resemblance of a rushing game consistently, especially no explosiveness. Their wide receivers couldn't break off their own defenders that were on them. Mm-hmm. On the defensive side, lack of pass rush. You take a look at the back end safety-wise. I don't know if that's a big concern to me. I thought it was a big concern last year. I look at the Chiefs and I go, how do you go about tackling this project? Where do they start to try to get back to the Super Bowl?
I think number one, if you get Mahomes back healthy, and you can refurbish some of the pass catching and the running back talent, some of those things, they'll be a contender again. That's just the way it goes. This was it was just a season of bad breaks for Kansas City in one way. Some of those, like, hey, we've always been really good at one-score games. This year they lost a lot of those one-score games. So some like natural regression will benefit this team just regardless. But I did write a piece for Yahoo. I think it was probably around like mid-season, maybe second half of the season prior to the season-ending injury for Mahomes later on. It was, and then it was just like, okay, well, this is completely done. But at that point, it was more, what's wrong with the Chiefs' offense? And for me, I think there are two layers of it. One, I do think there's the more like existential question about this offense is schematically. I mean, Andy Reid knows more about football than I ever would hope to.
Anyone in this
room, probably all of us combined. At the same time, though, this is an offense that I think has not quite evolved with some of the more like modern trends of today's game. I mean, especially you look at the two teams in the Super Bowl, or certainly the two teams in the NFC Championship game, Rams, Seahawks, where there are these more heavier condensed formations, and we're presenting a heavy offensive formation, and then we're throwing the football down the field out of it. And we have a consistent running game. That's just not what the Chiefs have really been, even as they've had this great success under Reid and Mahomes, and even frankly, before Mahomes got there. I think, though, football is very different now here in 2026, 2025 than it was even 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Like, we've evolved, and I think the Chiefs offense is still pretty kind of stuck in the ways that Reid has always done it, which, I mean, to his credit, he's always done it extremely well. But again, you sort of have that sort of existential question there. And do they have like the ability to pivot a little bit? I would say that they're probably not viewing it that way, considering they bring back Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, and we're sort of staying in the same lane, which I think, again, that you can still be totally fine if you don't change any of those ways. But in that way, then you do have to get some much better personnel in here, because in my opinion, I think the receiver room is way too light. I think the running back room was not great. And again, just the overall rushing ecosystem, not strong there. So I do think attacking those two positions, running back, wide receiver, has to be a high priority. But obviously you have other needs across the roster. But to me, especially with receiver, I would like to see them look for different types of receivers. And I'm consistent on this. This is not something that I'm just saying now. I've been, even when they were winning games, when they were in the Super Bowl last year, one of the first things I said was, I would like to see them get a different type of receiver in the room here. These guys that they have now, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, they need a lot of roll catering, and you can only roll cater to so many players. So I would love to see, like, hey, go out and get a perimeter guy who can just win on third down against man coverage. They have not had that guy really since Tyreek left the building, and they've been able to cobble together good offenses, but you'd almost like to see somebody who can excel outside the scheme rather than just like, okay, now we've got to scheme up Rashee Rice out of the backfield or this bubble screen or whatever. I would like to see this, all right, third down, 3rd and 8, like, we're behind the sticks here a little bit. We're going to get man coverage. We're going to have this guy lined up outside on the line of scrimmage, and he can go get himself some separation. Again, easier said than done, but that's something that I would like to see them add to this offense.
You brought up the running back position. Do they go free agency in order to fix that spot? Everyone wanted Breece Hall, Wichita's own Breece Hall. So we're excited about the possibility of that, and it's still on the table.
It is still on the table. Man, 3rd round pick, we couldn't have just given up that 3rd round pick for Breece Hall. Maybe it does look a little smart in hindsight now that you have it, and you're not 100% sure what Mahomes is going to be to start the year.
But is that the route? Rather than going with a 7th round, 5th round tailback, because everyone's looking at the draft and looking at Jeremiah Love and thinking he could be it. I'm not sold on a top 10 running back, at least to me.
Sure.
I think there are other positions, especially how deep the edge group is for this upcoming NFL draft. If you can get someone to fall to you, like a Bailey from Texas Tech, who can actually be on the opposite side of George Karlaftis and win battles and go after someone, that to me is better, because I think it will help out Spags schematically a little bit more. You can hit on those blitzes a little bit more. Offensively, I don't mind looking at a tailback that can do a lot of things, but Kansas City hasn't really prioritized the running back forever. Yeah. So how do you go about addressing that?
I will say, if a team is going to take a top 10 running back, like, this would be the team that would make sense, because typically if you're picking in the top 10, you got a long way to go. Again, I do think it's going to be like, what is the situation with Mahomes to start the season? Is he starting week 1? When is he going to be fully healthy? Obviously that's a question to be answered, but regardless, once he's healthy, once he's back in there, like, you are a team that should feel like you'd be in the playoffs next year. Again, they have other roster holes, but regardless, I still think you'd feel like you can be a playoff contender in pretty short order. That's not usual for a team that's picking the top 10. I mean, the Raiders taking Ashton Genty last year, that's just irresponsible for where you are from a team building perspective. Because then, okay, we have I think objectively a good running back in Ashton Genty, but you're not going to feel that impact because of just you don't have the offensive line. You don't have the ecosystem around him. I do think Kansas City can probably tell themselves a story where, hey, if we want to take a running back in the top 10, we do have that situation where you're going to feel the impact of that player pretty early on. But I'm kind of with you that I'd rather hit a premium position there because, again, we're not picking in the top 10 anytime soon. We could take a running back here, but yeah, you're not picking in the top 10 anytime soon. You're not going to have access to one of those premium positions. Again, maybe a wide receiver that could go there, like a Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. I don't know if he's going to make it to where they're picking in the top 10, but man, that's exactly the receiver type I was just kind of saying, and that's a lot easier to find in the top 10 than it is in the back half of the first round.
Yeah. So they have a couple of options to improve their draft capital. Mm-hmm. Do you trade Trent McDuffie? Do you consider trading away Chris Jones? Those are two very important pieces to the defense, but everyone's thinking, well, you trade away Trent McDuffie, get yourself a first-round pick. Anyone thinks that Chris Jones is going to get a first-round pick, get out of here. It's not going to happen. But those are options to, A, don't have to worry about paying those guys, and then B, get more draft capital to try to get more players just across the board. Would you consider that if you were Brett Veach? Would you pull the trigger?
Yeah, I think that Chris Jones, to your point, is probably more valuable to Kansas City than he is anywhere else. And I think that might send a signal like, oh, we don't really see ourselves as that contender anymore. And, I don't know if I'd agree with that. But, yeah, I'm not sure you're going to get the return on a guy like Chris Jones that the fan base would want to see and everything.
This isn't Madden.
It isn't Madden. And with Trent McDuffie, man, I'm such a fan of his game. But I think that he is somebody that you need like the rest of the secondary around him to fully feel like, I mean, he every single game, he's awesome, really good player. But in order to like leave him in the slot and be that like excellent nickel defender, you need your outside cornerbacks to be better. Cause they've had at times where it's like, all right, well, we got to shift him around to cover this guy and that guy. And I also think that's pretty unique too, that he's a guy who primarily is, I think at his best when he is that slot corner, but now we're playing Nico Collins and the Texans in the playoffs. Go track him around the football field. That's pretty rare. He's an advantage that I think I would rather hold on to than try to give away. But I think if you're going to do that, you also kind of have to be realistic and say, hey, we need to beef up the rest of the cornerback room around him too.
Well, and also to the development of corners, that's always been a thing too. It's like, well, we had LeJarry Sneed, we trade him for a third-round pick, and look what he does in Tennessee. He doesn't do all that great. So there's some Chiefs fans holding on to that hope. Eric Bieniemy coming back. I'm lukewarm on it.
I am as well, to be transparent.
Okay, cool. I'm glad because I get it. I think the one thing I probably am most troubled with is the fact that this is your chance to truly look at something new.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury being available. You have Mike McDaniel being available.
Yep.
And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, if they had phone calls or whatever, but to only go, Eric Bieniemy,
back to what you know.
We're going to request an interview for Eric Bieniemy, and that's it.
Yeah.
Not even take a look at anyone else, but that's it. That to me is my biggest issue. It's still Andy Reid's offense, and that's where I also go back and go, well, maybe Mike McDaniel will come in, and maybe it's not going to do anything. And maybe they don't want to do that too. Yeah. They want to shine by themselves. But with them going back to Eric Bieniemy, sure, accountability-wise, it could be better. Sure, the rushing attack could be better. How do you see things going with Eric Bieniemy coming back?
I think that kind of goes back to that existential point that I was talking about earlier with the offense, that it's just sort of stuck in its own way right now. And yeah, I think this was a unique opportunity, because let's also be honest, like Matt Nagy got the Giants offensive coordinator job today. What was your read on that situation? To me, it was like, they're like soft firing Matt Nagy. They're laundering like firing Matt Nagy.
Well, they hired Eric Bieniemy without even saying anything about Matt Nagy.
Oh, they're like, well, we expect him to get a head coaching job. So, well, we didn't get a head coach job. Well, we expected him to get a play calling offense coordinator job. He just got it now. Like it's February 2nd. We've been doing. You hired Bieniemy like weeks ago at this point. Don't gaslight me. Like you wanted to fire him, and that's fine. But just say it. Just be honest with us. And that's just like It was driving me crazy. And it's again, don't gaslight me, bro. Like I know what you're trying to do here. But I do think the personality part of Bieniemy is an interesting dynamic there. And like, hey, yeah, he's going to be a little more aggressive than Matt Nagy was. He's going to hold guys accountable. I totally buy into that because that's stuff I don't really see, and that's stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. I think that certainly does matter a lot. I think it is you've heard things coming out of there like, yeah, there could have been more accountability. There could be more. That's not Andy's personality. It's not Matt's personality either. So like, yeah, I think that makes sense. But again, it comes back to that. This was a unique opportunity where you were, for one way or another, you were moving on from your offensive coordinator. There were so many guys available. This would have been a great moment to say, hey, let's blend some of what these offenses that are, off that like McVay tree, Shanahan tree. Let's get one guy in there from this building, and like we're going to kind of blend what we do with Andy Reid here. And that was an opportunity that I would have liked to see them taken, but it's not what they've done, and they've sort of returned to that familiar area, which kind of brings me back to that like existential. I don't know. I just would love to see some more development from the way this offense functions.
What's the final score for this week? Who wins?
24-20 Seahawks win, but it's closer than people expect.
You have it closer than what people expect because everyone thinks it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah. When everybody thinks something, I don't want to think it because we know that the herd is often wrong. I want Seattle to be near the goal line with the ball. Oh, boy. So
they're down.
Bro, you're so toxic.
I want them to be in that position. They're trailing, and they hand the ball off to get the win. That's what I want. Just saying.
Redemption.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
That's what I want. Matt, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. No doubt. Thank you.